In the 1920s, Detroit was in the midst of a building boom. The automotive industry brought people from all over the world to work in Detroit in the automobile industry. Architects such as Albert Kahn used sculpture to adorn their buildings in the classical Renaissance styles popular at the time. Kahn traveled to New York frequently to work with the sculptural firm of Ulysses Ritchie and Anthony DiLorenzo. During one of these visits, he would meet Corrado Parducci. In 1924, the First State Bank and the Security Trust buildings were being built on Griswold. At the urging of Albert Kahn, Parducci traveled to Detroit to work on these two buildings. He'd only planned on staying in Detroit for 2 months. After the exterior of the Masonic Temple was finished in 1926, George D. Mason still had not found the right firm to complete the interior. His colleague, Albert Kahn, suggested young Parducci, and Mason scoffed at the idea. Parducci managed to win Mason over by creating a small model of the auditorium with peepholes and lights, so that Mason could experience Parducci's vision of the space. Mason awarded him the commission, and Parducci created every inch of the interior. Although his training originated in the building trades, he was a designer trained in all the classical styles. This proved evident as he created the temple's lodge rooms, auditoriums, and ballrooms. Now, no longer affiliated with Ricci and DiLorenzo, Parducci establishes his own studio. Flooded with sculptural work in Detroit, Parducci sends for his family in New York. During his busiest times, he works 16-hour days, while his staff works 2 shifts. He eats dinner at home only twice a year, Christmas and Easter.
Corrado Parducci designed many parts of Meadowbrook Hall. He designed corbels, he designed spandrels over doorways, he designed grotesques, he designed whole ceilings. And really Meadowbrook Hall can't be understood or appreciated without realizing how much of Corrado Parducci's style is really here at the hall. One of our favorite parts, of course, is the Sir Christopher Wren dining room ceiling, which is, in my humble opinion, probably one of the most beautiful pieces that Parducci did here. And it's interesting because when you walk into that room, you're obviously hit by how spectacular the ceiling is. I mean, you wouldn't be paying attention if you didn't notice how beautiful it is. And when you start talking to people about it and you explain how it was done, you really see that light pop up in their eyes because it looks so permanent and it looks so structurally part of the house that it's hard to believe that it's actually done in 4-foot sections. And then those sections are hung from the substrate, which in this case is reinforced concrete structure. It's hung by steel cables, so it's actually a floating ceiling there in the room, and then it was finished in place. So Parducci and his whole staff would have created the panels back in his studio, and then he would have brought them here, hung them, and finished the work.
After the stock market crash in 1929, the majority of Parducci's work dries up. He continues to have several commissions that carry him into the beginning of the Depression. One in particular is Detroit's Federal Court building. Each of the 8 panels measures 8 feet by 40 feet and were molded from 7 tons of clay. Parducci finds favor with Cardinal Mooney in the Catholic Archdiocese of Detroit and is commissioned to do several projects. It is at this time in architecture where ornamentation is not being used as frequent. The styles are changing, and financing doesn't call for ornate buildings any longer, except with the favored Romanesque styles popular with the church.
Look, these are people that did amazing things, and they made a huge impact in our physical environment, in our built environment, and they're forgotten. So how can we hope to have any sort of legacy when we've done nothing? And it's really kind of just a way of bringing people back down to earth, saying the most important people get forgotten in a few decades.